Hello, Design for Literacy students. This is Marcos with your week 12 briefing. As we're wrapping up our week 11, we had our visit to my studio in Dumbo and had most everyone come for a review of your storybooks and for a photo shoot, and had a great session and enjoyed meeting everybody here in a different context. And hopefully you guys enjoyed getting out of the school environment and into another real world kind of place. And look forward to sharing the results of those shoots, which I'll show you how to get to that in a little bit here. But let's kind of dive into what is it that we're going to need to be doing as the semester starts to come to a near end here, as we're down to, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more weeks. So we're at week 12. And as you can see now, we're at the final storybook, and we're going to have reviews of completed design layouts this coming Thursday for our class, our in-class session back at school. And we'll go through and take a look at everyone. And the goal is for everyone to be as close to finished as possible. But I know that many of you are still in kind of the sort of 1/3 of the way through, maybe even a little bit less, or maybe more, depending on how much the initial work takes in terms of like getting one spread down, and then it might come quicker and faster to go on to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more spreads. So I'm hoping that you can get a lot done, and the goal is to kind of have it mostly done. You know, I want to say it's due, but it's mostly done, reviewed. There's still a chance to know for one more set of comments, and then following that on week 13, the final files will be due by that next week. So there's another week of working on it, but also finishing it and getting it to me. But it's going to have to be pretty strict for that final files deadline to start getting packaged files so that we can send it to the printer, and we still have like 1, 2.5 or so weeks to get it back to us. But if we get any shorter than that, we may miss being able to get it for the finals. And it's important to me that everyone has their books in their hands by the end of the semester. So plan on this coming session for both a review of your final of your design completion, and also we're going to start project 3, and depending on the timing, I'm going to share a little bit with it to you on this recording right now, but I'll try to do a briefing in class, but it may have to be a video if we spend the whole time kind of reviewing everybody's work. So I'll probably give it a little bit of it so that we can get started. And on week 13 with the final files, we'll also have the first kind of research presentation for the audiovisual book. And then from there, we'll have a couple of weeks to finish that. And then we'll have here in orange, our final design review. And I'm going to ask everybody in class, the plan is to have it in school, but we have to have it on Zoom if we have it in school, because I want to have a series of guest critique reviewer people. But there's also a possibility we can come back to my office again. I know it was small and we didn't have everybody here at once, and we didn't have extra judges. But maybe if it's interesting to get outside and be able to talk to somebody in person with your physical books in your hands, that's always better. And when I had a bigger office, that was just a great way to end the session. But I think between the conference room and my office, and maybe using I have another space down, 1 floor down, maybe there's a way of doing it. So I'll bring that up to you guys. Maybe it's easier just to do it at Parsons with a Zoom situation. So let's think about that and figure out what the best experience for the finals will be. All right, so after our last review session, we should be considering the feedback you got. And you should be finalizing your text for sure as needed. And if your storyboard needs updating, like kind of get that down before you plow through and get everything done. Make sure you have everything you need planned out. And then deploy your illustration technique throughout all the spreads you're doing. Utilize assets that you created, like copy and paste, and utilize. You don't have to make a tree after tree. You can use the same tree and copy it. You know, things like that. Like, be smart about how you do that and make refinements to your style, your illustration, your type, your color, and just kind of get to the point where you're kind of finalized your layouts and your cover for your pages and your cover. And that's the big goal, to get that done and to really concentrate. Some of the fixed elements that I want to remind you of are in the front and the back. The front has the DERT logo in this white box. It has to be exactly where it's at in the template. And then also there's going to be this UPC code. It's going to be back here. So make sure you keep that in mind for the cover in the back. And remember, the inside cover is the first side of the first spread. It's not page one. This is page one with the scribble. And that stays the same. Put your name down here if you can. Type it in, or I'll do it. And then the first full spread is pages 2 and 3. And here is where I'm going to ask you to select one of your photographs from the photo shoot, turn it into black and white, and crop it approximately this kind of like sort of headshot. And then bring in a overview of your book concept or your books, or tell us what your story is about. And then even a little, you can put your website in here too as a little promotion. Other than that, like, leave everything the same. Don't move the picture around. Don't change it, make it bigger. Don't put a full page picture of you here on the left. Not going to work. But work on that as well. Here it is up close, where you can see Amanda has used the standard line, like this book was designed by. Then you put your name in here, and you put down where you're from, and then you're part of the design, Parsons School of Design, so that stays. And then starting here by her shoulder, Amanda's concept is based on emphasizing the contrast of speed between the hare and the tortoise to advance the moral of the story. Adapted and illustrated in this timeless Aesop's fable has a fresh new look. You can learn more about Amanda and her work by visiting. So it's just some kind of like preview teaser text right there. And then reminder on the back is the more books from DERT, more children's books by DERT page that you don't have to do anything to, just leave it as is. Now, remember the bleed. That's the idea that your live area, as you see in this spread, is what you'll see when you finish printing it, but it needs, your illustration needs to be a little bit bigger than your live area. Oops. I seem to be missing a picture here that shows that. Oh well. Anyway, basically the idea is that outside this edge, there should be 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch extra image that goes all the way around, since if it's adult full spread bleed like this. And if it's not, if you have just white edges, which not many of you do, then it's okay. And if you draw exactly like this, basically what we'd have to do here is just enlarge that image a little bit to bring more image out here so that we can cut it off. So just keep that in mind for sure. And the last thing is to update your presentation and to make sure you're keeping that going and building that. I've created a children's storybook part 4 design completion on the server. I'm sorry, on the Google Drive. And there's also, I placed the photo shoots pictures that Kelly sent to me yesterday. And if you go to this link here, photo shoot pictures, in the main folder for Design for Literacy Spring 2022, you'll see, you'll get the everyone's photos into one. So the idea is going to be for the first look and enjoy them, and you know, they're there for you to take. But the key is to pick a portrait and pick a good headshot of yourself. All these have books in their hand. Well, this one here of Ivy. I mean, Kiki, that's not Ivy, this is Kiki right here. This is a portrait, and it would be a little tighter. And if you like a picture that has your book in it as a portrait and you want to crop it out, no, that's a dumb idea. Never mind. If you can pick a portrait, convert it to black and white, and use it in your bio page. And then you're welcome to pick out these things, but maybe hold off on showcasing them till after the class is done. If you're going to like put them online, if you really want, that's okay. But yeah, that's there for you guys to enjoy. And then for those of you who weren't here, there's like 3 or 4 of you. I'll do my best. I'll bring a camera. Maybe I'll bring a piece of gray paper or something and just try to do some kind of portrait that's going to be at some level, at least good enough for you to use in your book. And sorry that you missed this and that I can't redo it. And then just a reminder, the class resources folder in the spring 2020 to folder has both the storybook template, in case you haven't done that yet, the InDesign template, and it also has a storybook archive, which has a bunch of past book PDFs that are there for you to look at. I published this on the assignment briefing on Canvas for you to see there. And that's basically it. But I did want to also give a little preview about what we're doing for the storybook. And if you remember, for this audio visual book, if you remember, we've been using this example of a handful of clay as the kind of the example for the assignments in terms of steps. And, you know, this is like obviously it's a book just like you're making that has lots of drawings and assets already developed. And the idea was to then convert your storybook, or to convert a storybook into a different experience that was vertical and that was about being on a smartphone, and being this kind of like read to me experience. And what I want to kind of focus with this is that it's not about being a super dynamic, highly interactive, lots of bells and whistles. I want it to kind of be like a calming, peaceful read of a story, pretty much kind of designed to be like a bedtime level, quiet time, kind of like wanting to hear the sound of a voice of somebody reading to you, you know, and even almost like not necessarily even having to look at the screen if you don't want to. It could be like you're just listening to it like an audiobook, but having a screen that moves a little bit, that shows a story, but doesn't work too hard to be high tech and super energized. And I just want to play this parts of it as an example to give you guys a view. So as you can see, it's basically on the smartphone, and there's like an interface, and there's a play button, and we'll give you a template that you can place this in and put your text in. And then the narration is done by Ivy herself, by the student. And other narrations have been done by friends or even relatives. And you're welcome to like recruit somebody. And here, let's play it.
DERT presents A Handful of Clay, illustrated and narrated by Ivy Cornella. On the bank of a river, there was a handful of clay. Though it was common and coarse, it often dared dream of the wondrous things it could be someday. Overhead, the trees swayed in majestic glory. The flowers rejoiced in their ethereal beauty. The river sang tales of distant mountains and seas. But the clay stayed optimistic of the treasure it would someday be. One day, the clay felt itself being lifted from the ground, and it was taken on a journey through a rough and stony road. The clay never complained, never made a sound. It thought the path to glory never easily flowed. But then the clay was put into a rough-hewn trough, where it was mixed and beaten and stirred and trampled. The clay endured through it all and told itself, the reward will be worth all this pain I've handled. Afterwards, it was put on a swiftly turning wheel, and it was whirled around and around and around. It felt itself being reformed into something new, then put into an oven where it hardened and browned. The heat of the fire was unrelenting and fierce, hotter than all the summers the clay had felt before. This was the worst pain the clay had ever suffered. Surely after this, there could be no more. Finally, the clay was taken out and set outside to cool. It happened so that there was a small nearby pool. The clay looked at its reflection, the outcome of all its pain. An ugly common flower pot, stiff and straight and plain. The clay could not help but feel immense despair. Why has my maker made me so? It sullenly declared. Then it was filled with dirt and a small, ugly brown seed. the clay thought it had become a miserable failure indeed. It was then set in a greenhouse where the sunlight flowed in. For many days, the clay ignored the hope that grew within. One day, the clay was taken and brought before a crowd. Flowers surrounded the place, and the people wooed and awed. Still, the clay was puzzled and turned to another pot. It said, "Everyone is staring, but I don't know for what." The other pot answered, "You truly do not know? You carry the world's loveliest lilies with petals white as snow." The people value these flowers as much as the rarest art, and the root of them, my friend, is grown in your humble heart. Then the clay was content and silently thanked its maker, for though earthen vessel, it held so great a treasure. A Handful of Clay, illustrated and narrated by Ivy Cornella.
Okay.
Reads presents.
All right. So I didn't really mean to play the whole thing through, but I just thought it would be good to just see it all through. And I think this is an excellent example of how to utilize assets that are already developed, that you've already mostly are developing right now, and transforming what's a horizontal page, turn page kind of experience to being the sort of panning or zooming in slowly, revealing parts of an illustration, and then even up and down in parts of it. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. Like, I don't want the clay to start talking with its mouth moving, or I don't want too much going on. I don't want to like discourage innovation and discourage you to do some unique things. You can do that. But I feel like the type of story it was, and it was about listening to it and using your own imagination at a lot of level, and not taking away from the ability for you as a reader or a listener to participate by bringing in your own experience or your own imagination. So I think that does a good job of just kind of converting some of these assets. Like when it was being turned into the pod, it was a grid in the book, but in this phone format, she went up and down in a single column. So that sort of thinking is what I want you to start thinking about as you create your book, how you can reveal things, or how she panned across the water, and then at the end there, the clay in a pot form was looking at its reflection with a sad face. Like, that's a good way to like bring some tension and have the viewer listening, and then at the end seeing the result, just like the pot did. So think about this as a way for you to be able to create your own app experience and your own audiovisual book. I'll show some more examples, and I'll also in class I'll show an example of someone who chose to create an original new story, a third story, and how that actually has advantages too, because you're starting from scratch, and you can make a simpler experience that allows you to be able to see or allows you to customize your drawings for this format, and not have to figure out how you're going to change it around. So that, if you're interested in making a third product, or using a third story with it in your third product, then there is that opportunity too. I just want to make this first choice being the assets you've already developed in your storybook in order to save time, but it may not save that much time, and you may want to do this and have the time to do it. So we'll talk more about that in class, but that's basically it for this. So now I just want to give you guys a good send over some good vibes, make sure that you're feeling positive. Like, everyone's got a great book in progress. It's there's every time one of you presented, it was so exciting to see what you were doing. The potential is there, the results are coming alive to life. And it's just so crucial that you now take advantage of every moment you can through this week and next to make this book great. It's going to last forever, at least in your hands, and you're going to show your kids or your grandkids. And I want it to be as cool and effective and full of heart as possible. And you have that ability now. You've got everything you've worked for through your design career, through just your education, through your life experiences, you can now bring it all into this beautiful piece that comes from you. So really take the time, spend the time, stay up later. Like, I don't want to stress anybody up, but like, do it. Like, really, I can't be there to cheer you on, but about over here, I'm doing it in my head. Like, keep going. Don't quit. Don't settle. Set your standards high and go for that goal. At the same time, take care of yourself, be balanced. Don't ignore too much your other classes, of course. But this is a big piece for you, and your picture and your name is going to be in it. It's going to be in the real world. You saw how it felt to have that baby board book in your hand and how real it is to have a non-digital piece. And I want this to be something that you can be so proud of. So please take the time needed throughout the rest of this week and next, and reach out to me anytime you need. I'll give feedback. And then of course we can talk more in class. So let's keep going, guys. You're doing great. And I'm looking forward to seeing the results that will come from our next critique. So keep going, and we will be in touch as needed, and see you in class.